Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into a wild story about a single line of fine print that ended up costing a company over £6 million. Seriously. It involves a massive fire, a safety system that failed when it was needed most, and a court battle with the lesson for, well, pretty much all of us.
So, let's just jump right in. Picture this. A fire rips through your business. It's a disaster. And that fancy safety system you paid good money for? It fails. The damages are huge. We're talking millions. So who pays? The company that installed the system or you? That's the exact question at the heart of this whole thing.
All right, let's meet our players. On one side, we've got Good Life Foods. They're a big frozen food company. And on the other, Hail Fire Protection, the experts they brought in to install a really important fire safety system. You know, it started out as a totally normal business deal, the kind of thing that happens all the time.
Okay, so Good Life Foods, this big factory, hires Hall Fire for this critical safety install. But look at the price tag for the job, just over £7,000. Now, I want you to burn that number into your brain, $7 grand. It might not seem like a lot, but trust me, it becomes a huge deal later on.
So, here's the timeline. It's all pretty straightforward at first, right? They sign a contract, the system gets installed, but then the worst happens. A massive fire breaks out. And that shiny new system, the one that was supposed to save the day, it completely fails. The damage is just catastrophic. So where do they go from there? Yep, you guessed it, straight to court.
And you know what's crazy? The legal fight wasn't even really about the fire or why the system failed. Nope, it all boiled down to the piece of paper they signed before anything was even installed. The contract. And really, it was all about one tiny but incredibly powerful sentence hidden in the fine print.
And that sentence is what lawyers call an exclusion clause. It sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It's basically a part of the contract where one side says, hey, if something goes wrong down the line, even if it's our mistake, you can't sue us for the damages. It's like a legal get-out-of-jail-free card.
And man, Hall Fire's clause was something else. I mean, look at this. They excluded all liability, even for their own negligence. That's a pretty bold statement. They're basically saying, even if we mess up badly, we're not paying for it. Wow.
So you can see the showdown taking shape, right? You've got Good Life Foods, who are out millions because of what they say was a faulty system. And then you have Hall Fire, just holding up the contract and saying, sorry, not our problem.
And let's not forget the sheer scale of this. The stakes were enormous. We're talking £6.6 million. And that wasn't just for fixing the building. That's for all the business they lost, the production that stopped. It was a complete operational nightmare for them.
So the arguments in court were polar opposites. Good Life was saying, look, your system was junk, and this clause in your contract is just unfair. It shouldn't count. Hall Fire's response? Super simple. They just said, hey, you signed it, a deal's a deal.
So you can imagine the judge's dilemma here. Do you stick to the black and white text of the contract? Or do you look at this huge disaster and make a call based on what seems fair? It was a tough one. And after a long, drawn-out legal battle, the UK Court of Appeal finally came back with their ruling.
And the result? It was a shocker. The court sided with Hall Fire. That little exclusion clause, they said it was totally valid. So even though their system failed, Hall Fire didn't have to pay a single penny of that £6.6 million. Nothing.
You're probably thinking, how is that even possible? Well, the court's reasoning was all about balance. First, they said, look, these are two big, sophisticated companies. They knew what they were doing. But the real kicker was the price. Remember that £7,000 fee? The court basically said it's completely unreasonable to expect a company to take on a potential £6 million risk for a £7,000 job. The court figured the real safety net should have been Good Life's own insurance policy.
Okay, so why should you care about this legal battle from a few years ago? Because the lesson here applies to pretty much every contract you'll ever sign. For your business, for your home, even just for a new phone plan. That fine print isn't just a bunch of boring words. It's deciding who takes the hit when things go wrong.
So what can we learn from all this? First, you gotta read everything, because those exclusion clauses are no joke. They can be totally legally binding. Second, always ask yourself, who's on the hook if this goes south? And third, insurance is absolutely critical. You can't just assume the other guy's gonna cover you. But maybe the biggest takeaway is this. If you see a super low price for something really important, that could be a massive red flag that you're the one taking on all the risk.
And that really leaves us with one big question to chew on, doesn't it? Think about all those terms and conditions you click I agree to without reading.
What kind of critical risks are hiding in the contracts you sign every single day? It's a scary thought, and a great reminder that when it comes to contracts, the fine print matters a lot. Thanks for joining us.